everyone, it's me Pratima. So Windows laptops are looking pretty hopeful this year with Intel launching the highly anticipated 14th Gen Meteor Lake chips with notable performance and efficiency gains. Whereas Windows on ARM is finally gaining some ground with the likes of Snapdragon X Elite platform, and I am sure Microsoft is readying all kinds of AI upgrades for the next version of Windows too. Sounds great. So then how come I'm making a video on Apple's M1 MacBook Air, which is over 3 years old at this point? Well, that's because this little thing is quite relevant even to this day, and I get a lot of people asking me if this Apple's most affordable laptop is still worth it in 2024. The short answer to that is a yes, but there are a bunch of other things you need to take into account if you're looking to get the M1 MacBook Air right now, so let's talk about that. Alright, the first and probably the most important thing there is to know about it is the price itself, because if you go to the official Apple website right now, the M1 MacBook Air is still selling at its original launch price, which is just ridiculous. But the good news is that it's available for as low as $750 in the US or around 80,000 rupees in India for the base 8 256 GB model if you look elsewhere, and at that price there sure is a lot to love about this guy. And the first thing to love here is this design that gets thinner from the top down, and it's as iconic and as timeless as they come. It also has a premium sturdy aluminum build and a lightweight design that I'm sure your back is going to be super thankful for, especially if you're a student or anyone who has to carry around their laptop all day. So yeah, the M1 MacBook Air is still one of the most well-built and most portable laptops out there. The only thing that kind of sucks here is the port selection, since all you're getting is a couple of Thunderbolt 3 connections and a 3.5mm headphone jack here. So a USB-C hub or a docking station is pretty much a must-have alongside the M1 MacBook Air if you're planning on rocking a multi-monitor setup or plugging in anything that's not USB-C. Thankfully, you can get a USB-C hub at pretty cheap prices these days from brands like Anker and Ugreen, so it's not really that big of a deal if you ask me. The M1 Air's 13-inch display holds are perfectly fine to this day as well. I know these chonky bezels don't exactly scream 2024 in any way, but if you look past that, which is not a difficult thing to do, then you are going to love it. It's sharp, it's color accurate, and it gets perfectly bright enough indoors. What more could I want? So it doesn't matter whether I'm casually browsing the web, watching the latest flick, or even doing some color-sensitive work like photo editing, the M1 MacBook Air has got a perfectly serviceable screen for all of those occasions. That reminds me, the built-in stereo speakers on this thing are also pretty nice actually. Far better than what you normally find on most Windows laptops on a similar price range. It fires audio directly at you, and the end result is this sort of room-filling sound that preserves most of the details in whatever you're listening to. Its webcam is not that great though, at least not by 2024 standards. The M1 MacBook Air has a typical 720p camera up front, and the overall video quality I would say is just average at best. So unless you're somewhere with really good lighting, don't expect much from this guy. At least its microphone quality is not too bad, so that's something. As for the keyboard, this is honestly still one of my favorite keyboards on any laptop. Apple took all the fundamentals into account like key spacing, travel distance, and the tactile feel while designing this thing, and I absolutely love the snappy, responsive typing experience it offers. I guess its short 1mm key travel could take some getting used to for some folks, but trust me, this is a fantastic keyboard to type on. Whereas the trackpad on the M1 MacBook Air is also the best that you can get for the price. Not just one of the best, but the best. It's super smooth, super spacious, and responds to all the gestures just like that. And the way I can quickly preview a file or look up the meaning of a word by simply long pressing on the trackpad is also one of my favorite things about the whole MacBook experience. Okay, let's talk performance now. So when Apple officially began the transition from Intel to its own M1 family of chips, it was unlike anything we'd ever seen before. There were a few things to sort out initially, especially in terms of optimizing Intel-based apps, but that's not been a problem for a while now. And 3 years later, what I'm the most impressed to see is how the M1 MacBook Air still feels as new as ever, absolutely no slowdowns or anything like that. I have a few friends and colleagues who have been daily driving this thing for at least a couple of years now, and they agree as well. The M1 chip is a gem, and this is easily the most reliable laptop they've owned as far as everyday performance is concerned. But let me say that you are going to be disappointing if you go chasing benchmark numbers, that's for sure. Because the M1 MacBook Air gets knocked down by practically every Intel and AMD processor popular in this particular price segment. Sure, benchmarks can be valuable in analyzing the peak performance, but honestly, they don't really paint the whole picture as to how a system performs in everyday usage. And as I said before, performance is not going to be a problem here. I have at least a dozen of tabs open at any given time when I'm researching for something I'm writing on, alongside some photo editing app, and this guy shows no signs of struggle running them at all or switching between them. Besides this, the M1 MacBook Air is perfectly capable of some video editing on Premiere Pro and DaVinci Resolve, music production on Logic Pro, and even some 3D modeling on Maya. Of course, I'm only talking about light projects on all of those apps, but yeah, it's a lot more versatile than you think. All this is even more remarkable when you realize the MacBook Air is a fanless, noiseless machine. But while this sounds terrific and all, that 8GB memory can be a bottleneck every once in a while, especially if you're running a Pro app. You could upgrade to 16GB model to avoid this, although the bad news is that 16GB variant is seemingly out of stock everywhere except on Apple's website, and it goes for a staggering $1,200 in the US or 1,20,000 rupees in India. So unless 8GB memory is really insufficient for all that you do, I think you should stick with the base model for its unmatched value for money. Anyway, let me tell you one more thing. So if you want something that can game as well, the M1 Air does not make any sense. It can play a bunch of light spec titles or emulate older game systems, and I know macOS gaming itself has seen a lot of progress in the past couple of years, but M1's GPU is simply not that powerful enough to handle most AAA titles. Now, aside from performance, efficiency is also one of the main reasons Apple decided to make its own ARM-based chips. As a result, the M1 MacBook Air's battery life is mighty impressive. Under casual everyday use, you can comfortably expect around 9 hours of screen on time on average here, which I cannot say about most mid-range Windows laptops, that's for sure. Alright, so I guess that's all you need to know about the state of the M1 MacBook Air in 2024, and like I said in the very beginning, I think this thing is very much worth it even to this day if you want a premium yet affordable laptop that's easy on the backpack, super powerful, has a battery that lasts all day, and nails all the basics. And even though Apple has a couple of newer MacBook Airs with slightly faster processor, a newer design, and better camera among other upgrades, the M1 Air is in a league of its own. Things could have been different if the newer models also came with more memory or more storage in the base configuration, but no, that's not the case. Apple still thinks 8 gigs of RAM and 256 gigs of storage is enough for most people, which makes the M1 Air all the more attractive. Oh, and there's one more thing actually. If you're a lifelong Windows user, it's only natural to get worked up about things like how easy or hectic switching to Mac OS is going to be. And let me tell you, unless a specific program you need does not work on Mac OS, that's actually nothing to worry about. So everyone, that is all for this video. I hope you found it useful. If you did, do consider subscribing to our channel. And while you're there, don't forget to turn on notifications. This is Pratima, and I will see you in my next video.